Marcus Burnett's trembling hands clutched the wallet containing $10,000, enough money to save his dying daughter's life. His decision that morning would leave the entire building speechless, including the cold-eyed CEO whose name was embossed on the leather. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment where in the world you're watching from. Let's go. The day started like any other for Marcus Burnett. He rose before the sun, careful not to wake his 7-year-old daughter Lily, who was still fast asleep in their small 2-bedroom apartment. The gentle hum of the oxygen machine in her room was a constant reminder of why he worked 2 jobs without complaint. Cystic fibrosis had made Lily's life a constant battle, but her bright smile and unwavering spirit were Marcus's entire world. He gently kissed her forehead before leaving, whispering, "Daddy loves you, sweetheart," then headed to Mrs. Patterson's apartment next door. The elderly woman had been watching Lily before and after school ever since Marcus's wife passed away 3 years ago. A godsend, Marcus often thought, especially on days like today, when his shift at Remington Tower started at 5 a.m. "Same as usual," he told Mrs. Patterson as she opened her door, still in her robe. "I'll be back by 6 p.m., maybe earlier if the second-floor cleanup goes faster than scheduled." "Don't you worry about a thing," Mrs. Patterson replied with a warm smile. "Lily and I have a date with some chocolate chip pancakes before school." Marcus thanked her again before heading out into the cool morning air. The bus ride to downtown was quiet this early, giving him time to review Lily's medical bills on his phone. The numbers hadn't gotten any smaller since last week. The new treatment her doctor recommended, the one that might actually improve her lung function instead of just maintaining it, remained frustratingly out of reach at nearly $12,000 per month, even with insurance. By 5:30 a.m., Marcus had changed into his blue maintenance uniform at Remington Tower, the gleaming 50-story headquarters of Remington Industries. While most employees wouldn't arrive for another few hours, the janitorial staff worked in the shadows, making everything spotless before the executives and office workers filed in with their designer coffees and tailored suits. "Morning, Burnett," his supervisor Johnson nodded as Marcus signed in. "You've got the executive floor bathrooms and then the 32nd floor conference rooms. Board meeting at noon." Marcus nodded, gathering his cleaning supplies. The executive floor was always a delicate job. The kingdom of Remington Industries, CEO Alexandra Remington, whose reputation for exacting standards was legendary throughout the building. Most of the maintenance staff avoided the 50th floor when possible, but Marcus didn't mind. In his 3 years working at the tower, he developed a system that let him work efficiently while remaining virtually invisible. The executive bathrooms were empty when Marcus arrived, his cart squeaking slightly on the marble floors. The opulence never ceased to amaze him: Italian marble, gold fixtures, and hand towels that probably cost more than his monthly rent. He worked methodically, his movements precise after years of practice. He was nearly finished when he heard the elevator chime. It was early for executives to be arriving, barely 7 a.m., but Marcus knew to make himself scarce nonetheless. He quickly gathered his supplies and prepared to slip out the service door when something caught his eye beneath the sink he had just cleaned. A sleek black leather wallet sat on the marble floor, partially hidden in the shadow of the vanity. Marcus hesitated, then picked it up. The leather was butter soft, clearly expensive. He should turn it into security downstairs, but curiosity got the better of him. He opened it, looking for identification. The first thing he saw was the money, a thick stack of $100 bills. Marcus's heart raced as he quickly thumbed through them. $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, more cash than he had ever held in his hands. Behind the money was a driver's license with the stern face of Alexandra Remington herself staring back at him. For one breathless moment, the world seemed to stop. $10,000, enough for almost a month of Lily's new treatment, enough to give his daughter a fighting chance. No one would know. He could say he never found it. With that much money, Ms. Remington probably wouldn't even notice it was missing. The thought evaporated as quickly as it had formed, leaving Marcus feeling sick with shame. His mother had raised him better than that. And what kind of example would that set for Lily? The memory of his daughter's face, her absolute trust in him, solidified his resolve. Marcus placed the wallet in his pocket and finished his work quickly. He'd return it personally to Ms. Remington's office before heading to the conference rooms. According to the schedule, she usually arrived around 7:30 a.m. before her executive assistant. The executive floor was eerily quiet as Marcus made his way toward the CEO's corner office. The entire floor was designed to intimidate, all steel, glass, and cold minimalist furniture. He approached the receptionist's desk, currently empty, and hesitated. "Can I help you?" A crisp voice called from behind him. Marcus turned to find Alexandra Remington herself standing there, briefcase in hand, her expression a mixture of surprise and suspicion at finding a maintenance worker waiting outside her office. She was younger than Marcus expected, perhaps in her late 30s. Though her reputation suggested someone much older. Her dark hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and her tailored suit probably cost more than his annual salary. Her grey eyes assessed him coolly. "Ms. Remington?" Marcus began, his voice steadier than he felt. "I found this in the executive bathroom." He held out the wallet. "I checked the ID to see who it belonged to." Something flickered across her face. Surprise, relief. He couldn't tell before her professional mask returned. "I see," she said, taking the wallet and opening it. She glanced inside, then back at Marcus with a slightly different expression. "And you brought it directly to me." It wasn't a question, but Marcus answered anyway. "Yes, ma'am." She studied him for a moment longer. "Most people would have been tempted by this much cash." "It's not mine," Marcus said simply. "What's your name?" "Marcus Burnett, ma'am." She nodded, slipping the wallet into her briefcase. "Thank you, Mr. Burnett. You can return to your duties." Marcus nodded and turned to leave, expecting that to be the end of their interaction. He needed to get to the 32nd floor anyway. "Mr. Burnett," she called after him. He turned back, surprised. "How long have you worked in this building?" 3 years, ma'am. "And before that?" The question caught him off guard. "I was a mechanic at Peterson Auto until they closed down." Something unreadable passed behind her eyes. "I see. Thank you again." Marcus nodded and headed for the service elevator, unsure what to make of the exchange. As the doors closed, he checked his watch. He was already running behind schedule for the conference rooms, and Johnson would have his hide if they weren't perfect for the board meeting. He put the strange encounter out of his mind as he focused on the day's work ahead. The wallet was returned, his conscience was clear, and Lily was counting on him to be home for their Thursday night pizza tradition. That was all that mattered. Little did Marcus know that his simple act of honesty had just set in motion a chain of events that would change his life forever. The morning proceeded as usual for Marcus. The conference rooms on the 32nd floor needed special attention for the board meeting. Every surface polished to a mirror shine, not a speck of dust to be found. By the time he finished, his back ached from the effort, but the rooms were immaculate. Johnson, his supervisor, conducted his routine inspection with his typical scrutiny. "Not bad, Burnett," Johnson conceded, which was high praise coming from him. "Head down to the lobby after lunch. They need extra hands for the marble floors. Some delivery guy tracked mud all over the place." Marcus nodded and headed to the staff break room for his lunch, a simple peanut butter sandwich and an apple. As he ate, he thought about Lily. Today was a good day for her. Mrs. Patterson had texted that she'd had enough energy to go to school. Some days weren't so fortunate. His phone buzzed with a notification from his banking app. The automatic payment for Lily's medication had gone through, leaving his account precariously low until payday. He sighed, pushing away the worry that constantly gnawed at the edges of his mind. One day at a time, he reminded himself, that's all anyone can do. Meanwhile, 50 floors above, Alexandra Remington sat in her office, the black wallet open on her desk. She'd been staring at it for several minutes, lost in thought. The cash was still there, all $10,000, untouched. She'd been carrying it for a meeting with a potential investor who insisted on cash deposits for his exclusive opportunities. The whole thing had seemed suspicious, but the potential return had been tempting. She'd almost fallen for it, but what occupied her thoughts now wasn't the money or the dodged scam. It was the janitor, Marcus Burnett. "Evelyn?" She called to her executive assistant through the intercom. "I need you to pull the employee file for a maintenance worker named Marcus Burnett and contact HR. I want his full employment history, performance reviews, everything." "Right away, Mrs. Remington," came the efficient reply. Alexandra turned back to her computer, typing Marcus Burnett into the company database. His employee ID photo appeared, the same serious expression she'd seen this morning, but with eyes that seemed to hold a depth of kindness that had caught her attention. 20 minutes later, Evelyn entered with a thin file. "This is everything HR had on file for Mr. Burnett," she explained, placing it on Alexandra's desk. "They said his record is spotless, never late, no complaints, always volunteers for holiday shifts. Apparently, he's one of their most reliable employees." Alexandra nodded, dismissing her assistant. Once alone, she opened the file and began reading. Marcus Burnett, 38 years old, widower, one dependent, a daughter, Lily, age 7. Previous employment at Peterson Auto for 12 years until the business closed. Hired at Remington Tower 3 years ago as part of the night maintenance crew. Transferred to day shift 18 months ago. Salary, $14.25 per hour. She frowned at the figure. How did someone live on that in this city, especially with a child? She continued reading the sparse details of his life contained in the corporate paperwork, stopping at a note in his file about requested time off for daughter's medical appointments. There was a medical insurance claim history attached, and what she saw made her pause. Cystic fibrosis. Lily Burnett had been diagnosed at age 3. The file included notes about Marcus requesting extra shifts whenever available, occasionally working double shifts when the overnight crew was short-handed, a man working himself to exhaustion to care for a sick child. Alexandra leaned back in her chair, a strange feeling settling in her chest. Here was a man who had every reason to take that money, $10,000 that would have made a significant difference in his life, and yet he hadn't hesitated to return it. She picked up her phone. "Evelyn, cancel my 2 p.m. and find out where Marcus Burnett is working right now." After receiving word that Marcus was working in the lobby, Alexandra took the express elevator down. She rarely ventured to the ground floor during business hours, preferring to use the private garage entrance. But today, she needed to see this man again. The lobby of Remington Tower was an impressive space. 30-foot ceilings, marble floors, and a massive water feature designed by a renowned sculptor. As the elevator doors opened, Alexandra spotted Marcus immediately. He was on his hands and knees, carefully scrubbing at a stubborn stain on the marble floor, his movements methodical and thorough. She approached quietly, stopping a few feet away. He was so focused on his work that he didn't notice her presence until her shadow fell across the floor. Marcus looked up, surprise registering on his face as he quickly got to his feet. "Ms. Remington," he said, wiping his hands on his uniform. "Is there something I can help you with?" Several employees in the lobby had stopped to stare. It wasn't every day that the CEO of Remington Industries came down to speak to the maintenance staff. "Mr. Burnett," Alexandra began, suddenly aware of the attention they were attracting, "I'd like to speak with you privately. Would you accompany me to my office?" Marcus glanced at his supervisor across the lobby, who nodded vigorously, clearly as confused as everyone else. "Of course, ma'am," Marcus replied, setting aside his cleaning supplies. The ride up in the executive elevator was silent. Marcus stood with his hands clasped in front of him, eyes fixed on the floor indicator as it climbed steadily toward the 50th floor. Alexandra observed him from the corner of her eye, noting his discomfort, but also his dignity. He didn't fidget or make nervous small talk. He simply waited. When they reached her office, Alexandra gestured for him to take a seat across from her desk. The plush leather chair seemed to swallow him as he perched uncomfortably on its edge. "Mr. Burnett," she began, "I've been reviewing your employment record." A flicker of concern crossed his face. "Have I done something wrong?" "On the contrary," she said, "you've been an exemplary employee. What interests me is why a skilled mechanic with 12 years of experience at Peterson Auto is now working as a janitor." Marcus's expression shifted slightly. "When Peterson closed, I needed steady work. My daughter..." He stopped himself, as if unsure how much to share. I have responsibilities. The maintenance position was available, had health benefits, and the hours worked with my schedule. Alexandra nodded. I see. And your daughter, Lily, is it? She's 7, surprise registered on his face. Yes, ma'am. She has cystic fibrosis, Alexandra stated, not as a question. Marcus stiffened. You've been thorough in your research. I make it a point to know who I'm dealing with, she replied evenly. Mr. Burnett, do you know how much money was in that wallet you returned this morning? Yes, ma'am, $10,000. And it never occurred to you to keep it? Even a portion. Marcus met her gaze steadily. It wasn't mine to keep, even though that money could have helped with your daughter's medical expenses. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. My daughter deserves many things, Mrs. Remington, but I could never give her something that came from teaching her it's okay to take what isn't yours. Alexandra leaned back in her chair, studying him. In 20 years of business, she'd developed a finely tuned radar for insincerity. This man had none. His integrity wasn't a performance. It was simply who he was. Mr. Burnett, she said finally, I'd like to offer you a position. His brow furrowed in confusion. I'd already have a position, a different one, she clarified, with a substantial increase in salary. My personal driver recently retired, and I've been interviewing candidates without success. The position requires someone trustworthy, discreet, and dependable, qualities you've demonstrated in abundance. Marcus blinked, clearly stunned by the offer. I don't understand. You want me to be your driver? Because I returned your wallet. Because you returned $10,000 when you had every reason not to, she corrected. And because I need someone I can trust. The position pays $75,000 annually, with full benefits and a more consistent schedule than maintenance. Would that interest you, Mr. Burnett? The color drained from his face as the figure registered. It was more than 5 times his current salary. He began, then stopped, collecting himself. That's very generous, Miss Remington, but I don't have experience as a chauffeur. You were a mechanic for 12 years. I assume you know how to drive the cars you fixed, she replied with a hint of amusement. Everything else can be learned. Marcus fell silent, his mind clearly racing. Alexandra could almost see the calculations happening behind his eyes. What this would mean for Lily, for their life. May I have some time to consider it? He asked finally. Alexandra nodded, impressed by his restraint. Most people would have jumped at the offer without a second thought. Take the rest of the day, she said. Discuss it with your daughter. Let me know your decision tomorrow. As Marcus rose to leave, she added, and Mr. Burnett, regardless of your decision, I want to thank you for your honesty this morning. It's a rare quality these days. He nodded once, thanked her quietly, and left the office, his posture straight, despite the weight of the unexpected opportunity that had just been placed on his shoulders. Marcus left Remington Tower in a daze, his mind still reeling from the conversation with Alexandra Remington. Johnson had looked at him with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion when he returned to the lobby, only to say he'd been given the rest of the day off, but Marcus barely noticed. He was too preoccupied with the life-changing offer he'd just received. The bus ride home was a blur. $75,000 a year. The number kept repeating in his head like a mantra. It was more than enough to cover Lily's treatments, to move them to a better apartment, maybe even start a college fund. It seemed too good to be true. But was it? Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Ms. Remington's offer than simple appreciation for his honesty. People like Alexandra Remington didn't just hand out high-paying jobs to maintenance workers on a whim. There had to be another reason. He got off the bus 3 stops early, needing the walk to clear his head. The afternoon sun warmed his face as he made his way through the neighborhood. It was a modest area, working families, small businesses, nothing fancy but decent enough. Still, it wasn't the kind of neighborhood where kids like Lily got the best opportunities. He thought about his daughter's face when he'd last taken her to the specialist. The doctor had been cautiously optimistic about the new treatment, but apologetic about the cost. I wish there was another way, he'd said, genuine regret in his voice. But insurance companies classify it as experimental. Marcus had nodded, trying to hide his disappointment. What could he say that he'd work harder, take on a third job? There were only so many hours in a day, and Lily needed her father present, not just as a provider. When he reached Mrs. Patterson's apartment, he was surprised to find Lily already waiting for him, her backpack at her feet. Her face lit up when she saw him. "Daddy!" she exclaimed, rushing toward him with her arms outstretched. "You're early!" Marcus scooped her up, noticing that she felt lighter than she had even a few weeks ago. The disease was taking its toll. He held her tightly, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. "Hey, sweetheart," he said, setting her down gently. "How was school today?" "Good. We learned about butterflies, and I got a star on my math quiz." Her voice was enthusiastic, but he could hear the slight wheeze in her breathing. "That's my girl," he said, ruffling her hair. "Say thank you to Mrs. Patterson." The elderly woman smiled from her doorway. "She's a joy, as always," she said. "Everything okay? You're home awfully early." "Everything's fine," Marcus assured her. "Just got let off early today. Thank you for watching her." Once inside their apartment, Lily headed straight for the kitchen. "Can we have pizza tonight since you're home early?" she asked hopefully. "Please," Marcus smiled. "Nay, it's not Thursday yet, but I think we can make an exception." While Lily settled at the kitchen table with her homework, Marcus ordered their usual, a small cheese pizza for Lily and a medium pepperoni for himself, though he often ended up giving her half of his when she was having a good day. As he watched her work on her math problems, her brow furrowed in concentration, Marcus considered how to bring up the potential job chain. How much should he tell her? At 7, she was perceptive beyond her years, a consequence of spending so much time in hospitals, listening to adults discuss her condition. But she was still a child, and he didn't want to burden her with adult concerns. "Daddy," Lily said, looking up from her homework. "Why are you staring at me like that?" Marcus blinked, caught off guard. "Was I staring?" "Uh-huh. With your thinking face." She mimicked his expression, scrunching her nose and furrowing her brow exaggeratedly. Marcus laughed. "I do not look like that." "You totally do," she giggled. "So what are you thinking about?" He took a deep breath. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something. I might be changing jobs." Lily's eyes widened. "You're not going to be a janitor anymore. I've been offered a position as a driver for the CEO of Remington Industries, the building where I work now." "A driver? Like a taxi driver?" "No, more like a personal chauffeur. I drive her to meetings and appointments. That sort of thing." Lily considered this, her head tilted to one side. "Would you like that better than being a janitor?" The question caught him off guard. He hadn't really considered whether he'd enjoy the work more, only the financial implications. "I'm not sure," he answered honestly. "It would be different, but the important thing is that it would pay a lot more money. We could move to a better apartment, maybe get you that bike you've been wanting." "And my medicine?" Lily asked quietly. "The one Dr. Morris said could help me breathe better." Marcus's heart clenched. Of course she had heard that conversation at the doctor's office. She missed very little. "Yes," he said softly. "We could afford that too." Lily nodded seriously, as if weighing great matters of state. "Then I think you should do it." The pizza arrived, momentarily interrupting their conversation. As Marcus set the boxes on the table, Lily asked, "Why does she want you to be her driver? Did you tell her you used to fix cars?" Marcus hesitated, unsure how to explain. "I found her wallet today. It had a lot of money in it, and I returned it to her." "How much money?" Lily asked curiously. "A lot," Marcus replied vaguely. "Like $100. Her eyes were wide. "More than that. $1,000. She gasped. Marcus nodded, deciding not to specify the full amount. "It was a lot of money, but it wasn't ours, so I gave it back to her." Lily considered this as she took a small bite of pizza. "That was the right thing to do," she said finally, with the certainty only a child could muster. "Mrs. Ellison at school says that doing the right thing always comes back to you." "Does she now?" Marcus smiled, touched by his daughter's simple wisdom. "Uh-huh. She says the universe balances things out." Lily took another bite. "So the universe is giving you a better job because you did the right thing." Marcus wasn't sure if he believed in such cosmic justice, but he appreciated the thought. "Maybe you're right, sweetheart." "I know I'm right." Lily said with confidence. Then, more seriously, will you still be able to take me to school sometimes? And will we still have pizza night on Thursdays? The questions revealed her true concerns, and Marcus was quick to reassure her. Absolutely. Ms. Remington said the hours would be more consistent than my current job, and pizza night is sacred. We'll never give that up. Satisfied, Lily returned to her pizza. The matter settled in her mind. For her, it was simple. Her daddy had done the right thing, and good things were happening as a result. If only adult decisions were so clear-cut. Later that night, after Lily was asleep, Marcus sat at their small kitchen table with a notepad, making lists of pros and cons. The financial benefits were obvious. The salary increase would be life-changing, but there were other considerations. Would he be on call at all hours? Would the position come with expectations he wasn't prepared for? And most importantly, would it give him the flexibility he needed to care for Lily? He thought about Alexandra Remington's demeanor. Cool, professional, but with a surprising element of, not exactly warmth, but something genuine beneath the corporate exterior. She hadn't seemed like the type to make impulsive decisions. If she'd offered him this position, she must have had her reasons. Marcus picked up his phone and dialed a number he rarely used. "Hello?" came a sleepy voice. "Mike, it's Marcus. Sorry to call so late." Mike Peterson had been the owner of Peterson Auto before it closed. He'd given Marcus his first job and had been something of a mentor over the years. "Marcus, everything okay with Lily?" Mike asked, instantly alert. "She's fine. I just needed some advice. And you're the only person I could think to call." He explained the situation, finding the wallet, returning it, and the unexpected job offer. Mike listened without interrupting. "So what do you think?" Marcus asked when he'd finished. "Am I missing something here? It seems too good to be true." Mike was quiet for a moment. "And you know, in all my years in business, I've learned one thing. When people show you who they are, believe them. You showed this CEO that you're honest, even when it costs you. Maybe she's just smart enough to recognize the value in that. But why me? She could hire a professional driver with experience." "Experience isn't everything, son. Trust is harder to come by. Look, the way I see it, you got nothing to lose by taking the job. If it doesn't work out, you can always go back to maintenance work." Marcus nodded, even though Mike couldn't see him. "Yeah, you're right. How's Lily doing, really?" Mike asked, his voice softening. "She's hanging in there. This new treatment could really help her, but..." He trailed off. "But it costs a fortune." Mike finished for him. "All the more reason to take this opportunity. Marcus, you've been given a gift. Don't overthink it." After ending the call, Marcus sat in the quiet kitchen for a long time. Through the partially open door of Lily's bedroom, he could hear the soft hum of her oxygen machine. The decision had already been made, he realized. It had been made the moment Alexandra Remington had mentioned the salary. In the morning, he would accept the position. For Lily, he would walk into the unknown and trust that his instincts about Alexandra Remington were correct. After all, he'd trusted his instincts when he'd picked up that wallet, and that decision had led him here. As he finally headed to bed, Marcus felt a curious mix of anxiety and hope. Tomorrow would mark the beginning of a new chapter for him and Lily. He just hoped it was one with a happy ending. The next morning, Marcus arrived at Remington Tower dressed in the best clothes he owned, a navy blue button-down shirt, khaki pants, and the one pair of dress shoes he kept for special occasions. It wasn't impressive by the tower's standards, but it was the best he could do on short notice. He had called Johnson earlier to explain the situation, earning a mixture of surprise and grudging congratulations from his supervisor. "Figures," Johnson had said. "Find a wallet, get a promotion. Some guys have all the luck," but it wasn't luck, Marcus knew. It was something far simpler and more complicated all at once. He took the executive elevator to the 50th floor, still feeling like an imposter as the doors opened to reveal the sleek reception area. Evelyn, Alexandra Remington's executive assistant, looked up from her desk with a professional smile. "Mr. Burnett," she greeted him. "Ms. Remington is expecting you. Please go right in." Alexandra was standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows when he entered, gazing out at the city spread below. She turned as the door closed behind him, her expression unreadable. "Mr. Burnett," she said, "have you made your decision?" "I have," Marcus replied, standing straight. "I'd like to accept your offer, Ms. Remington. Thank you for the opportunity." She nodded, as if she had expected nothing less. "Excellent. Evelyn has prepared the necessary paperwork." She gestured to a folder on her desk. "Once that's complete, we'll need to address a few logistical matters." Marcus took the folder and began reviewing the documents: employment contract, confidentiality agreement, benefits enrollment forms. It was overwhelming. The salary was there in black and white: $75,000 annually, with performance bonuses and a comprehensive benefits package that made his current coverage look like a band-aid on a broken bone. "You'll need appropriate attire," Alexandra continued as he signed. "Remington Industries maintains an account with Sullivan's on Fifth Avenue. Evelyn will arrange for a fitting this afternoon." "That's very generous," Marcus said, a bit uncomfortable with the idea of someone else buying his clothes. "But I can manage." "This isn't charity, Mr. Burnett," she interrupted. "It's a professional requirement. My driver represents Remington Industries. Your appearance reflects on the company." Put that way, he could hardly argue. He signed the last document and closed the folder. There's one more thing," Alexandra said, moving back to her desk. She opened a drawer and removed an envelope. "This is an advance on your first month's salary. I understand your daughter requires medical treatment that your current insurance doesn't fully cover." Marcus stared at the envelope, completely stunned. Inside, he knew, would be enough money for Lily's first round of the new treatment. "I can't accept," he began. "You can and you will," Alexandra cut in, her tone allowing no argument. "Consider it an investment in your performance. I need your full attention, Mr. Burnett, not a mind divided by financial concerns." She handed him the envelope, and he took it, his fingers trembling slightly. "Thank you," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything," she replied. "Just be ready to start tomorrow. Evelyn will provide you with my schedule and all necessary details. Your first task will be driving me to a breakfast meeting at the Pierre at 7:30 a.m. And just like that, Marcus Burnett became the personal driver to one of the most powerful CEOs in the city. The rest of the day passed in a whirlwind. The fitting at Sullivan's was unlike anything Marcus had ever experienced. The tailor measured every inch of him, making notes about his excellent posture and athletic build, while discussing suitable fabrics and cuts with Evelyn, who had accompanied him. "Ms. Remington prefers a classic look for her staff," Evelyn explained to the tailor. "Nothing flashy." Of course," the man agreed, jotting down more notes. "3 suits to start, I think. Navy, charcoal, and black. White shirts, of course. Perhaps a subtle pattern for variety and ties to coordinate." Marcus stood silent through most of it, marveling at how quickly his life was changing. By the end of the appointment, he had been measured for 3 custom suits, provided with 5 dress shirts and ties, off the rack to tide him over, and fitted for a new pair of leather shoes that cost more than his monthly rent. "The rest will be delivered to your address tomorrow afternoon," the tailor assured him as they left. "This feels excessive," Marcus murmured to Evelyn as they exited the shop. She gave him an appraising look. "Ms. Remington doesn't do things halfway, Mr. Burnett. If she's decided you're the right person for this position, she'll ensure you have everything you need to succeed." She checked her watch. "Now we need to get you to the garage to familiarize yourself with the vehicles." The Remington Industries garage occupied 3 underground levels beneath the tower. The company fleet included several luxury vehicles, but Alexandra primarily used a sleek black Mercedes S-Class sedan for daily business and a larger SUV for certain occasions. "You'll be responsible for maintaining the vehicle's appearance," explained Morris, the aging fleet manager who had been with the company for decades. "But we have service contracts for mechanical maintenance. If something needs repair, you bring it to me." Morris walked him through the vehicle's features, showing particular patience with the high-tech systems in the Mercedes. Despite his years as a mechanic, Marcus found himself taking mental notes. These vehicles were several technological generations beyond what he'd worked on at Peterson Auto. "Ms. Remington likes the temperature at exactly 71 degrees. Morris continued. "The car should be waiting at the private entrance 5 minutes before her scheduled departure. Never late, but don't be too early either. She doesn't like to be kept waiting, even in a car." By the time Marcus left Remington Tower that evening, his head was swimming with information, schedules, protocols, expectations. But as he boarded the bus home, for what would be one of the last times, he realized, he felt a strange mixture of excitement and trepidation. When he arrived home, he found Lily and Mrs. Patterson making cookies in their small kitchen. The apartment smelled of vanilla and chocolate, and for a moment he stood in the doorway, watching his daughter laugh as she helped the elderly woman scoop dough onto a baking sheet. Despite her illness, despite everything, she found joy in the simplest things. "Daddy," Lily exclaimed when she spotted him. "We're making cookies. Did you get the new job?" "I did," he confirmed, setting down his bag and the packages from Sullivan's. "I start tomorrow." Mrs. Patterson wiped her hands on her apron. "Well, that calls for a celebration. Good thing we're making extra cookies." Later, after Mrs. Patterson had gone home and Lily was in bed, Marcus sat at the kitchen table and opened the envelope Alexandra had given him. Inside was a check for $6,000, enough for Lily's first round of treatment with some left over. He called Dr. Morris's office immediately and left a message scheduling Lily to begin the new treatment regimen. As he prepared for bed, Marcus laid out one of his new shirts and ties for the morning. Everything was happening so quickly, but he couldn't afford to question his good fortune. Lily needed this chance, and he was determined to make the most of it. Morning came too soon. Marcus rose before dawn, showered, and carefully dressed in his new clothes. He felt strange in the crisp white shirt and silk tie, like someone playing a role in a film. But when he looked in the mirror, he had to admit the transformation was remarkable. He barely recognized himself. Mrs. Patterson arrived early to watch Lily, giving him a low whistle of appreciation when she saw him. "My goodness, Marcus, you clean up nicely. Thanks for coming so early," he said, grabbing his keys. "I should be back by 6, but I'll call if anything changes." "Don't you worry about a thing," she assured him. "Lily and I will be just fine." The drive to Remington Tower was tense. He'd borrowed Mrs. Patterson's car for this first day, but Alexandra had mentioned that he would eventually have use of a company vehicle to commute. The thought of driving a luxury car to their modest apartment seemed absurd, but it was just one more surreal aspect of his new reality. Morris was waiting in the garage, keys in hand. "Right on time," the older man nodded approvingly. "The car's prepped and ready. Miss Remington will be down at 7:15 sharp." Marcus inspected the gleaming Mercedes, finding it immaculate. He adjusted the mirrors and seat, familiarizing himself with the controls one last time. Then he drove to the private entrance and waited, his heart hammering in his chest. At precisely 7:15, the elevator doors opened, and Alexandra Remington stepped out. She wore a tailored gray suit and carried a slim leather portfolio. Her eyes swept over him and the car in one quick, assessing glance. "Good morning, Mr. Burnett," she said as he opened the rear door for her. "Good morning, Miss Remington," he replied, careful to keep his voice steady. She slid into the back seat, and he closed the door gently before taking his place behind the wheel. "The Pierre Hotel," she instructed, though he already knew the destination. "Take Park Avenue. We're meeting with the board chair of Meridian Healthcare. He values punctuality above all else." "Yes, ma'am," Marcus replied, smoothly pulling away from the curb. As they merged into morning traffic, he caught Alexandra watching him in the rearview mirror. Her expression was calculating, as if she were still evaluating her decision to hire him. "Your daughter," she said suddenly. "How is she?" The question caught him off guard. "She's doing okay. Thank you for asking." "Were you able to schedule her for the treatment we discussed?" Marcus nodded, keeping his eyes on the road. "Yes, she starts next week." "Good." Alexandra turned her attention to her phone, apparently satisfied with his answer. The rest of the drive passed in silence. Marcus navigated the morning traffic with ease, arriving at the pier with 10 minutes to spare. As he opened her door, Alexandra paused before stepping out. "You'll wait here," she said. "The meeting should last approximately 90 minutes. Keep your phone on." "Yes, ma'am," he replied. As she walked toward the hotel entrance, Marcus settled back into the driver's seat. His first task had been completed without incident. It was a small victory, but he allowed himself to feel a moment of satisfaction. His phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Patterson. "Lily says good luck on your first day. She's very proud of her daddy." Marcus smiled, typing a quick reply. "Maybe, just maybe, This was going to work out after all. The first week passed in a blur of early mornings and late evenings. Marcus quickly learned Alexandra Remington's schedule was as demanding as it was unpredictable. Board meetings flowed into investor lunches, followed by site visits to Remington subsidiaries across the city. Some days ended with charity galas that kept them out until midnight. Others concluded with unexpected trips to the airport for last-minute flights. Through it all, Marcus remained steady, professional, and increasingly indispensable. He memorized her preferences, anticipated her needs, and navigated the city's streets with an efficiency that even Alexandra noticed. "You've never once complained about the hours," she remarked on Friday evening as he drove her home after a particularly grueling day. It was nearly midnight, and they'd been on the move since 6 a.m. "It's not in the job description, ma'am," Marcus replied, meeting her eyes briefly in the rearview mirror. A hint of a smile touched her lips. "No, I suppose it's not." He pulled up to her building, a sleek high-rise in the most exclusive part of the city, and came around to open her door. As she stepped out, she paused. "You have the weekend off, Mr. Burnett. I suggest you use it to rest. Monday will be challenging." "Challenging how?" he asked, his curiosity getting the better of him. "We're flying to Chicago for the Meridian Healthcare acquisition. It's been a delicate negotiation. Some board members are resistant." She studied him for a moment. "Have you ever been on a private jet, Mr. Burnett?" "No, ma'am." "Well, there's a first time for everything. Be at the airfield by 5 a.m. The trip should last 3 days. Make arrangements for your daughter." With that, she disappeared into her building, leaving Marcus to absorb this new development. 3 days away from Lily. It would be the longest they'd been apart since her mother died. He'd need to call Mrs. Patterson, make sure she could stay overnight. And Lily, how would he explain this to her? When he arrived home, the apartment was quiet. Mrs. Patterson had left a note saying Lily had gone to bed around 9, after insisting on waiting up as long as she could. Marcus crept into her room, careful not to disturb the oxygen machine's gentle rhythm. In the soft glow of her nightlight, he could see her peaceful face, her chest rising and falling with each breath. He sat gently on the edge of her bed, just watching her sleep. After a moment, her eyes fluttered open. "Daddy," she murmured sleepily. "You're home." "I am, sweet pea," he whispered, brushing her hair from her forehead. "Sorry I'm so late." "It's okay," she yawned. "Did you drive the fancy car again today?" He smiled. The Mercedes had become the fancy car in Lily's vocabulary. "I sure did. How was your day? Did you take your medicine?" She nodded, more awake now. "Dr. Morris called. He said my new medicine is ready on Monday." Marcus felt a pang of guilt. He would miss her first treatment. "About that, Lily, I have to go on a business trip with Miss Remington on Monday. I'll be gone for a few days." Her eyes widened. "A trip? Where?" "Chicago. It's for an important meeting. Will you fly on an airplane?" "A private jet, actually." Lily's face lit up. "That's so cool. Can you take pictures for me?" Her enthusiasm eased his worry. "Of course I will. And Mrs. Patterson will stay here with you. I'll call you every night before bedtime. Promise?" "Cross my heart," he said, making the gesture that had been their solemn vow since she was tiny. Satisfied, Lily snuggled back under her covers. "I'm glad you got this job, Daddy. You don't look so tired anymore." The observation caught him by surprise. Had he been that transparent, even to his 7-year-old? "I'm glad too, sweet pea. Now get some sleep. We have the whole weekend together." The weekend passed too quickly, filled with pancake breakfasts, a trip to the park, and marathon sessions of Lily's favorite board games. By Sunday night, Marcus had prepared Mrs. Patterson for her 3-day stay and packed a small suitcase for himself. His new suits hung in a garment bag, ready for their first business trip. Monday morning arrived with an insistent alarm at 3:30 a.m. Marcus showered and dressed in the dark, trying not to wake Lily. He left a note for her on the refrigerator, promising to call that night, along with a small stuffed airplane he'd bought her as a surprise. The drive to the private airfield took him through the sleeping city, its streets empty and peaceful in the pre-dawn hours. He arrived at 4:45 a.m., following the directions he'd been given to a hangar where a sleek Gulfstream jet waited on the tarmac. The Remington Industries logo gleamed on its tail. Alexandra arrived precisely at 5 a.m., accompanied by 3 people Marcus hadn't met before. She introduced them curtly as they boarded. "Mr. Burnett, This is James Harrington, our CFO, Sarah Chen, Head of Legal, and Michael Reed, Head of Acquisitions. They'll be joining us in Chicago. Marcus nodded politely to each, noting the way they assessed him with varying degrees of curiosity. Sarah Chen offered a friendly smile, while Harrington barely acknowledged him. Reed gave him a perfunctory handshake before following the others up the boarding stairs. The interior of the jet was like nothing Marcus had ever seen. Plush, leather seats arranged in a living room configuration, polished wood tables, and a fully stocked bar at the rear. A flight attendant greeted them warmly, offering coffee and breakfast. "Mr. Burnett will sit here." Alexandra indicated a seat slightly removed from the main grouping where the executives were settling in. "Courtney, please make sure he has everything he needs." "This is his first flight with us?" "Of course, Miss Remington," the attendant replied with a professional smile. As Marcus took his seat, he felt distinctly out of place among these corporate powerhouses. They immediately launched into a discussion about the Meridian acquisition, speaking a language of leveraged buyouts and market share that might as well have been Greek to him. "The board chair is still resistant," Harrington was saying. "He's emotionally attached to the company his father built." "Emotions have no place in business," Alexandra replied coolly. "Meridian's research division is bleeding money, and their administrative overhead is bloated. We're offering a fair price and saving them from themselves. Their cystic fibrosis drug trial is promising," Reed pointed out. Phase 2 results were better than expected. Marcus's attention sharpened at the mention of cystic fibrosis, "which is precisely why we want them," Alexandra stated. "The trial needs proper funding and management to get through FDA approval. Meridian doesn't have the resources to see it through. We do, and the patent alone would be worth billions," Chen added. The conversation continued as the jet took off, the acceleration pressing Marcus back into his seat. He tried not to look too amazed as the ground fell away beneath them, revealing the sprawling city shrinking to a miniature version of itself. Once they reached cruising altitude, Alexandra unexpectedly moved to sit across from him, while the others continued their strategy session at the front of the cabin. "First time flying, Mr. Burnett?" she asked, though she clearly knew the answer. "Yes, ma'am," he admitted. "It's impressive." "Indeed," she agreed, glancing out the window. "I sometimes forget what a privilege it is." She turned back to him, her expression businesslike. "I want to brief you on what to expect in Chicago. You won't just be driving us between meetings. You'll be present in the room during some sensitive discussions." Marcus's surprise must have shown on his face. "I prefer to have my own people present, even in confidential situations," she explained. "You've proven yourself discreet. More importantly, you notice things others might miss." "I'm not sure I understand," Marcus said carefully. "You're observant, Mr. Burnett. It's a quality I value. While we're negotiating, I want you to watch the Meridian executives. Note their reactions, particularly Dr. Howard Mills, their research director. He'll be presenting their cystic fibrosis trial results." At the mention of the disease again, Marcus couldn't hide his interest. "May I ask why this particular trial is so important to Remington Industries?" Alexandra studied him for a moment. "Meridian has developed a promising therapy called CFX7. It's shown a 62% improvement in lung function in phase 2 trials with minimal side effects. If the results hold through phase 3, it could be a game changer for patients." "Including children?" Marcus asked, thinking of Lily. "Especially children. The earlier the intervention, the better the outcome." She tilted her head slightly. "This is personal for you." It wasn't a question, but Marcus answered anyway. "My daughter's condition. I mentioned she has cystic fibrosis." "Yes, I remember." Alexandra's gaze was direct. "CFX7 could help her significantly, but only if it makes it to market. Meridian doesn't have the capital to complete the trials and navigate the FDA approval process. We do." The realization dawned on Marcus slowly. "The acquisition. It's about this drug, among other assets," Alexandra acknowledged. "But yes, the CFX7 patent is a primary target. The potential market is substantial. And the patients," Marcus asked, unable to keep a hint of challenge from his voice. What happens to them if the acquisition goes through? Instead of taking offense, Alexandra seemed to approve of his directness. If we acquire Meridian, we'll fast-track the trial with triple the current funding. Remington has the best regulatory team in the industry. We could have CFX-7 on the market in 18 months, instead of Meridian's projected 3 to 5 years. The implications weren't lost on Marcus. 18 months versus potentially 5 years could mean the difference between Lily receiving this treatment while it could still significantly help her, or getting it too late. I understand, he said quietly. I thought you might, Alexandra replied. She stood to return to her colleague, then paused. Mr. Burnett, I didn't hire you because you returned my wallet. I hired you because in that moment, you revealed your character. I need people of character around me, particularly when making decisions that affect thousands of lives. With that, she rejoined the executive team, leaving Marcus with a newfound understanding of his role. He wasn't just a driver. He was, in some small way, now part of Alexandra Remington's inner circle, and the decisions being made on this trip could directly impact his daughter's future. As the jet soared toward Chicago, Marcus took out his phone and looked at his background image, Lily's smiling face from their weekend at the park. For the first time since taking this job, he felt not just gratitude for the opportunity, but a sense that perhaps there was a greater purpose to it all. Chicago greeted them with unseasonably cold weather, a biting wind that cut through Marcus's new suit as they descended the steps of the jet. 2 black SUVs waited on the tarmac, drivers standing at attention beside them. You'll drive the lead vehicle, Alexandra instructed Marcus as they approached. I've arranged for local drivers to handle the second car with the rest of the team. The transition was seamless. Within minutes, Marcus was navigating unfamiliar streets, following the GPS to the Meridian Healthcare headquarters in downtown Chicago. Alexandra sat silently in the back, reviewing documents and occasionally making notes on her tablet. The weight of the upcoming negotiations seemed to fill the car. Meridian's headquarters was modest compared to Remington Tower, a 12-story building with a simple glass facade. As they pulled up to the entrance, Marcus noticed Alexandra straightening her already impeccable suit, a subtle tell that even she felt the pressure of what lay ahead. Remember what I said on the plane, she told him as he opened her door. Observe, particularly Dr. Mills. His reactions will tell us more than his words. The Meridian executives were waiting in a wood-paneled boardroom on the top floor. Marcus positioned himself unobtrusively against the wall behind Alexandra, as instructed. To the Meridian team, he likely appeared to be security rather than a driver, and no one questioned his presence. William Carson, Meridian's board chair, was a man in his 70s, with a full head of white hair and the confident bearing of someone who had built something substantial with his own hands. He greeted Alexandra with professional courtesy, but Marcus could detect the wariness in his eyes. Ms. Remington, Carson began once everyone was seated. I understand you've increased your offer by 5% since our last discussion. While we appreciate the gesture, it doesn't address our fundamental concerns about Remington Industries' plans for Meridian's research division. Alexandra's expression remained neutral. Mr. Carson, I respect what your father built and what you've continued, but let's be candid. Meridian's financial position is precarious. Your last 2 quarters showed declining revenue, and your research costs are unsustainable with your current capital structure. Carson's jaw tightened slightly. We've weathered downturns before. Not like this, Alexandra countered smoothly. Zyme, your CFO's projections show you'll exhaust your research funding within 18 months at the current burn rate. The CFX-7 trial alone will require an additional $100 million to complete Phase 3 testing. A younger executive at Carson's right, Dr. Howard Mills, Marcus presumed, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He was in his 40s, with rumpled clothes and the distracted air of a scientist pulled reluctantly into a business meeting. Indeed, the CFX-7 trial is showing exceptional promise, Mills interjected. The Phase 2 results exceeded our expectations. We're seeing sustained improvement improvement in lung function across all age groups, particularly in pediatric patients. Marcus felt his heart quicken at these words. This was the treatment that could help Lily, which is precisely why it deserves the resources to succeed, Alexandra replied. Dr. Mills, how many patients are currently enrolled in your trial? 43. Mills answered. We had hoped for 60, but recruitment has been challenging, given our limited site location. And how many could you enroll with proper funding? How quickly could you complete Phase 3 with unlimited resources? Mills blinked, caught off guard by the direct question. With adequate funding, we could expand to multiple sites nationally, perhaps internationally. We could enroll 300 patients within 6 months. The trial itself would take another year, with 6 months for data analysis and submission. So 2 years minimum before submission to the FDA, Alexandra noted. And then another year, optimistically, for approval. That's the standard timeline, Mills acknowledged. Remington could do it in half that time, Alexandra stated. We have existing relationships with trial sites in 27 countries. Our regulatory team has shepherded 16 drugs through FDA approval in the last 5 years, with an average timeline of 8 months from submission to approval. Marcus watched Dr. Mills's face carefully, as instructed. The scientist's expression shifted from skepticism to reluctant interest. This wasn't just corporate posturing. Mills recognized the truth in what Alexandra was saying. The timeline isn't the only consideration, Carson cut in. We've built Meridian on certain principles. Our research isn't just about profit. We're committed to accessibility. As am I, Alexandra replied, surprising even her own team, which is why I'm prepared to add a condition to our offer. If Remington acquires Meridian, we will commit contractually to making CFX7 available at an affordable price point, with a patient assistance program for those who cannot pay. The room fell silent. This was clearly not what anyone had expected, including James Harrington, whose head snapped toward Alexandra with poorly concealed shock. That's not standard practice in pharmaceutical acquisitions, Carson said carefully. I'm not a standard CEO, Mr. Carson, Alexandra replied, with the faintest hint of a smile. Remington Industries has always taken a long view on profitability. A medication only works if patients can access it. Marcus studied Alexandra's face, trying to reconcile this statement with the calculating businesswoman he had come to know. Was this genuine concern for patients or brilliant negotiation strategy? Perhaps both. Dr. Mills leaned forward, suddenly engaged. And the research team, what happens to them? They stay intact. Under your leadership, Alexandra answered promptly. With triple the current budget and access to Remington's advanced laboratory facilities, Mills exchanged a look with Carson, his excitement palpable. The meeting continued for another 2 hours, delving into financial details that Marcus could barely follow. Throughout, he observed the dynamic between Carson and Mills. The board chair remained cautious, protective of his family's legacy, while the scientist grew increasingly animated about the possibilities Alexandra was offering. When they finally broke for lunch, Marcus followed Alexandra into a side room where the Remington team huddled. They're softening, Harrington observed, Carson especially. He's realizing he doesn't have a choice. It's not about removing choice, Alexandra corrected. It's about offering a better one. Mr. Burnett, what did you observe about Dr. Mills? All eyes turned to Marcus, clearly surprised that his opinion was being solicited. He cleared his throat, uncomfortable with the sudden attention. He cares about the research more than anything else, Marcus said slowly, thinking back to Mills's reactions. When you mentioned the expanded trial sites and increased funding, that's when he became truly engaged. The company structure seems secondary to him compared to getting this treatment to patients. Alexandra nodded. Precisely. Mills is our ally in this room. Carson respects him. If Mills openly supports the acquisition, Carson will follow. The patient assistance program was never in our offer, Harrington pointed out, a hint of reproach in his tone. It is now, Alexandra replied with finality, and the board will approve it because the profit margins on CFX7, even with reduced pricing for certain populations, will be substantial. It's good business and good ethics, James, Marcus caught Sarah Chen, the legal head, giving him a speculative look. He had the distinct feeling she was trying to determine whether his presence had influenced Alexandra's unexpected addition to the offer. The afternoon session was more technical, with presentations from both sides about financial projections, integration plans, and market analysis. Through it all, Marcus remained vigilant, noting how Dr. Mills increasingly positioned himself as an advocate for the acquisition, subtly countering Carson's concerns with scientific enthusiasm for what Remington could offer. By 5 o'clock, the exhaustion in the room was palpable. Carson called for a final recess, asking Alexandra to join him for a private conversation in his office. When they returned 30 minutes later, something had shifted. Carson's posture was more relaxed, his expression resigned but no longer resistant. "We'll take your revised offer to our full board tomorrow morning," Carson announced, "with my recommendation for approval." A ripple of satisfaction passed through the Remington team. Alexandra simply nodded, professional to the end. "We appreciate your consideration, Mr. Carson. We believe this partnership will secure Meridian's legacy for generations to come." As they gathered their materials to leave, Dr. Mills approached Marcus directly. "You're not security, are you?" he asked quietly. "No, sir," Marcus admitted. "I'm Miss Remington's driver." Mills studied him curiously. "Interesting. She kept looking to you during my presentation on the pediatric trial result, almost like she was gauging your reaction." Before Marcus could formulate a response, Mills continued, "I have a daughter too, you know. That's why I went into this field, to help children like her." The statement hit Marcus with unexpected force. "Is your daughter cystic fibrosis?" "No," Mills shook his head. "Juvenile arthritis." "Is your daughter cystic fibrosis?" "No," Mills shook his head. "Juvenile arthritis. Different condition. Same motivation. We do what we must for our children, don't we?" "Yes," Marcus agreed softly. "We do." Mills patted his shoulder and moved away, leaving Marcus with the distinct impression that the scientist had somehow seen through his presence to the real reason he was in that room. Outside, the Chicago wind had grown fiercer as evening approached. Marcus held the car door for Alexandra, who paused before entering. "Well done today, Mr. Burnett," she said quietly. "Your observation about Mills was valuable." "Thank you, Mom," he replied. Then, gathering his courage, "The patient assistance program, was that always part of the plan?" Alexandra's eyes met his, unreadable as ever. "Let's just say I was reminded recently of why medical advancements matter beyond their profit potential." She glanced at her watch. "It's nearly 7 in New York. I believe you have a call to make before a certain young lady goes to bed." With that, she slid into the car, leaving Marcus momentarily speechless at her awareness of his promise to Lily. As he closed her door and rounded the vehicle to the driver's seat, he felt a new appreciation for the complexity of Alexandra Remington. Perhaps there was more to her than the ruthless CEO he had initially perceived. That night, in his hotel room, Marcus called Lily as promised. Her voice was bright with excitement as she told him about her first treatment with the new medicine. "The nurse was super nice, Daddy. She said I was the bravest girl she's ever seen. And guess what? I didn't even cough as much today." "That's wonderful, sweet pea," Marcus said, his throat tight with emotion. "Like, I'm so proud of you." "When are you coming home?" she asked, the question he'd been dreading. "Just 2 more days," he promised, "and I have so many pictures to show you of the airplane and the tall buildings here." "Okay," she agreed reluctantly. "Mrs. Patterson is nice, but she doesn't know how to do the voices right for bedtime stories." Marcus chuckled. "Well, nobody does the voices like me." "That's a dad's special." After saying goodnight, Marcus sat on the edge of the hotel bed, reflecting on the day's events. Somewhere in this city, decisions were being made that would directly impact Lily's future. And somehow, improbably, he had become part of that process. His phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "Meridian board meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. Car leaving at 8:15 a.m. Alexandra Remington," texting him directly. Another small indicator that his role was evolving beyond just a driver. Marcus set his alarm and tried to get some sleep, knowing tomorrow would be another pivotal day in this unexpected journey. The morning of the Meridian board meeting dawned gray and rainy, the Chicago skyline obscured by low-hanging clouds. Marcus was already waiting with the car when Alexandra emerged from the hotel at precisely 8:15. She wore a charcoal suit that somehow seemed more commanding than yesterday's, her expression focused and determined. "Good morning, Mr. Burnett," she greeted him as she slid into the back seat. "Did you sleep well?" "Well enough, thank you," he replied, surprised by the personal question. "And you?" "I rarely sleep before major acquisitions," she admitted. "There are too many variables to consider." The rest of the Remington team joined them, filing into the second vehicle. As Marcus pulled away from the curb, he noticed Alexandra staring out the window, her usual composure overlaid with something he hadn't seen before. Tension, perhaps even uncertainty. "May I ask a question, Miss Remington?" he ventured. She turned from the window. "You may. This acquisition, it seems very important to you personally, more than just business." Alexandra was quiet for so long that Marcus thought she might not answer. When she did, her voice was measured, careful. "My brother, Thomas, died of cystic fibrosis when he was 16. I was 14, she continued, looking out the window. 30 years ago, the treatments were primitive compared to today. He spent his last 3 months in the hospital. I watched him struggle for every breath. Marcus gripped the steering wheel tighter, his chest constricting at the thought of Lily facing such a fate. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "It was a long time ago," Alexandra replied, her tone neutral once more. "But yes, this acquisition is more than just business. CFX-7 could prevent other families from experiencing what mine did." The revelation shifted something in Marcus's understanding of Alexandra Remington. The driven CEO, the calculating businesswoman. These were still accurate portrayals, but incomplete. There was more beneath the surface than he had realized. They arrived at Meridian headquarters to find news vans parked outside. Reporters huddled under umbrellas. "Doom, what's happening?" Marcus asked, slowing the car. Alexandra leaned forward, her expression darkening. "Someone leaked the acquisition news. Harrington, call security. We need a private entrance." Within minutes, they were ushered through an underground parking garage, avoiding the media circus out front. As they rode the elevator up to the boardroom level, Marcus could feel the tension radiating from Alexandra and her team. "And this complicates things," Harrington muttered. "Stock speculation will start immediately." "Focus, James," Alexandra instructed calmly. "The board meeting proceeds as planned. Sarah, be prepared for additional confidentiality measures." The elevator doors opened to reveal Carson waiting for them, his face grave. "I apologize for the media presence, Miss Remington. We're investigating the source of the leak." "No need," Alexandra replied. "It's a standard tactic when someone wants to disrupt negotiations." "Is your board ready?" Carson nodded. "They're assembled, and I should warn you, Gerald Hoskins arrived this morning." Alexandra's expression hardened. Interesting timing. As they walked toward the boardroom, Marcus whispered to Sarah Chen, "Who is Gerald Hoskins?" "Meridian's former CFO," she replied quietly. "Left under questionable circumstances 2 years ago. He's now with Tempest Pharmaceuticals, Remington's main competitor." The boardroom was tense when they entered. 12 people sat around a massive oak table with William Carson at its head. Dr. Mills was present, along with various executives Marcus recognized from yesterday's meeting. At the far end sat a man in his 50s with slicked back hair and an expensive suit that somehow seemed too flashy for the occasion. Gerald Hoskins, presumably. "Ladies and gentlemen," Carson began, "as you know, we're here to vote on the acquisition offer from Remington Industries. Before we proceed, Mr. Hoskins has asked to address the board as a representative of Tempest Pharmaceutical." Alexandra's face remained impassive, but Marcus saw her fingers tighten almost imperceptibly on the portfolio in her lap. Hoskins stood, adjusting his tie with manicured fingers. "Thank you, William. I'll be brief. Tempest Pharmaceuticals has authorized me to present a counteroffer for Meridian Healthcare, effective immediately." He slid folders across the table to each board member. "Our offer exceeds Remington's by 15%, with guaranteed positions for all current executives." A murmur ran through the room. Carson opened his folder, his eyebrows rising slightly. "This is highly irregular, Gerald," he said. "We're in final negotiations with Remington. Nothing is final until the papers are signed." Hoskins replied with a thin smile. Tempest believes Meridian would be better served by our partnership. We share the same values, the same commitment to patient care. Dr. Mills snorted audibly, drawing surprised looks from around the table. That's revisionist history, Gerald. When you were CFO here, you tried to shut down the CFX7 program twice because the profit margins weren't high enough. Hoskins's smile faltered. That was before the Phase 2 results. Howard, things changed. Tempest is fully committed to continuing the CFX7 trial. With what infrastructure? Mills challenged. Tempest has no experience in respiratory therapeutics. Your clinical trial network is half the size of Remington's. Alexandra remained silent, watching the exchange with calculated interest. Marcus realized she was letting Mills fight this battle for her, a clever strategy, as the scientist's objections would carry more weight than hers. The fact remains, Hoskins pressed on, our offer is substantially higher. The board has a fiduciary responsibility to consider it. Carson looked to Alexandra. Ms. Remington, would you like to respond? Alexandra stood slowly, commanding the room's attention without raising her voice. Mr. Carson, members of the board, Remington's offer stands as presented yesterday, with one addition. She paused, making eye contact with each board member. If Tempest's interest is genuine, they've had 2 years to approach Meridian. Their sudden appearance today, following a convenient media leak, suggests their primary goal is not to acquire Meridian, but to prevent Remington from doing so. She walked toward the center of the room. Tempest wants CFX7 because they recognize its value, but unlike Remington, they have no personal stake in its success, no commitment to making it accessible to all patients who need it. Hoskins scoffed. Personal stake. This is business. Alexandra, not charity. It's both, she countered evenly. And as proof of Remington's commitment, I'm prepared to increase our offer by 10%, matching Tempest's financial terms, while maintaining our promises regarding patient accessibility and research continuity. Carson looked shocked. That's extremely generous, Ms. Remington. It's an investment in the future, she replied. And to ensure there's no question about our intentions, I propose an immediate demonstration of good faith. Remington will advance $20 million today to expand the CFX7 trial, whether or not the acquisition is finalized. The room fell silent. Even Hoskins seemed at a loss for words. Dr. Mills leaned forward eagerly. With that funding, we could open 5 new trial sites immediately. We could enroll 100 new patients within weeks. Alexandra nodded. That's precisely the intention, Dr. Mills. Patients shouldn't wait while we navigate corporate negotiations. Carson cleared his throat, visibly moved by the offer. I think we should proceed to a vote. He looked around the table. Unless there are further questions for either party. An older woman whom Marcus hadn't noticed before spoke up. I have one question for Ms. Remington. This patient assistance program you've proposed, what specifically are you committing to? Any patient who needs CFX7 will have access to it, Alexandra stated firmly. Those with insurance will pay a reasonable copay. Those without insurance or with inadequate coverage will receive the medication at a deeply discounted rate or bear, in cases of financial hardship, at no cost through the Remington Foundation. And that commitment would be contractually binding. The woman pressed. Absolutely. Ms. Chen has drafted the language, which would be incorporated into the acquisition agreement. The woman nodded, apparently satisfied. Thank you. I'm ready to vote, Carson asked Alexandra and her team, along with Hoskins, to step outside while the board deliberated. In the hallway, Hoskins immediately approached Alexandra, his friendly manner at odds with the tension between them. Impressive performance in there, Alexandra, he said, but we both know patient assistance programs are PR stunts. The board will see through it. Unlike you, Gerald, I keep my promises, Alexandra replied coolly. And Meridian's board knows that. Hoskins's smile didn't reach his eyes. This isn't over. Even if you win today, Tempest won't stop pursuing CFX7. I would expect nothing less, Alexandra said. Competition drives innovation after all. Hoskins moved away to make a phone call, and Alexandra turned to her team. Sarah, prepare the transfer documents for the $20 million. James, contact the board back in New York. They'll need to be briefed on the increased offer. And if the vote doesn't go our way, Harrington asked, It will, Alexandra stated with quiet certainty. Mills has convinced them. Carson was already leaning our way yesterday. Marcus stood slightly apart from the group, observing the interactions. Alexandra caught his eye and moved to stand beside him. "Thoughts, Mr. Burnett?" she asked quietly. "Hoskins seems more interested in blocking you than actually acquiring Meridian," Marcus observed. "Precisely. Tempest and Remington have been rivals for decades. My father outmaneuvered Gerald's father 30 years ago in a similar situation. Some grudges span generations." Before Marcus could respond, the boardroom door opened and Carson emerged. "We're ready for you," he announced. They filed back into the room. The atmosphere had shifted. There was a sense of resolution, of decisions made. Carson remained standing as everyone took their seats. "The board has voted," he announced solemnly. "By a margin of 10-2, we accept Remington Industries' revised offer with all conditions as stated." Hoskins stood abruptly, his face flushed with anger. Without a word, he gathered his materials and stalked from the room. Carson extended his hand to Alexandra. "Congratulations, Ms. Remington. I believe my father would approve of Meridian's future under your stewardship." "Thank you, Mr. Carson," Alexandra replied, shaking his hand firmly. "I promise you won't regret this decision." The next few hours were a whirlwind of paperwork, press statements, and preliminary integration planning. Marcus remained in the background, observing it all with a growing sense of wonder. He had witnessed a corporate battle with real-world implications, not just for business, but for patients like Lily. Dr. Mills sought him out during a break in the proceedings. "Your boss is quite remarkable," he commented, coffee cup in hand. "I've never seen anyone turn a hostile takeover attempt into a moral victory before." "She's not what I expected," Marcus admitted. Mills studied him curiously. "May I ask how a driver became so integral to these negotiations?" "She clearly values your perspective." Marcus hesitated, uncertain how much to share. "I returned her wallet once. It contained a lot of money." Mills nodded, as if this explained everything. Character revealed in a moment of choice. Classic assessment technique. "I suppose so," Marcus agreed. Well, whatever the reason, I'm glad you're here," Mills said earnestly. "I get the feeling you understand what's really at stake with CFX-7. "I do," Marcus confirmed. "My daughter, Lily, she's 7. She was diagnosed with CF when she was 3. Mills's expression softened immediately. "I suspected as much. The way you reacted during my presentation yesterday," he placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "The expanded trial will be recruiting pediatric patients within a month. If you'd like, I could make sure Lily is considered." Marcus felt his throat tighten with emotion. That would mean everything, Dr. Mills." "Howard, please," the scientist insisted, "and it's the least I can do. This acquisition means CFX-7 has a real chance of reaching children like Lily years sooner than it would have otherwise." As the day concluded, Marcus found himself driving Alexandra back to the hotel through Chicago's evening traffic. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets gleaming under the city light. "It was a good day," Alexandra said from the back seat, the first words she'd spoken since leaving Meridian. "Yes, ma'am," Marcus agreed. "Congratulations on the acquisition." "Thank you." She was quiet for a moment. "I saw you speaking with Dr. Mill. He offered to consider Lily for the expanded trial," Marcus said, still somewhat overwhelmed by the possibility. "I'm glad," Alexandra replied. "She would be an excellent candidate." Marcus glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Did you arrange that?" "No," she said simply. "Mills made that decision himself. But I'm not surprised. He's a good man." As they pulled up to the hotel, Alexandra didn't immediately exit the car. "We'll return to New York tomorrow afternoon. The morning will be devoted to transition planning with the Meridian team. I'll be ready," Marcus assured her. "Mr. Burnett," she said, her tone shifting slightly, "what you witnessed today goes beyond your normal duties. I hope I can continue to count on your discretion." "Of course, Ms. Remington." "Good." She gathered her belongings. "And Marcus, call your daughter. tell her the good news about the trial. It was the first time she had used his first name. The simple gesture felt like a shift in their relationship. Not quite friendship, but something more than mere employment. "I will," he promised. "Thank you." As Alexandra walked into the hotel, Marcus sat for a moment, processing the events of the day. When he had returned that wallet, he could never have imagined where it would lead. Now, improbably, his daughter might have access to a treatment that could change her life, all because of a simple act of honesty. He took out his phone and dialed Mrs. Patterson's number, eager to share the news with Lily. Whatever came next in this unexpected journey, today had brought hope, and that was worth everything. The return flight to New York was considerably more relaxed than the journey to Chicago. The Remington team celebrated their victory with champagne, while Alexandra remained composed, but visibly satisfied. Marcus observed it all from his seat, still processing the whirlwind of events that had transpired in just a few days. His conversation with Lily the previous night had been emotional. He'd explained as simply as he could that a new medicine, even better than the one she had just started, might be available to her soon. Her excitement had been tempered with typical 7-year-old practicality. "Will it still taste yucky?" she had asked. Marcus had laughed. "I don't know, sweet pea, but even if it does, it might help you breathe much better." "Then I'll take it," she had decided firmly, "even if it's super-duper yucky." Now, as the jet soared above the clouds back toward New York, Marcus felt a tentative optimism he hadn't allowed himself in years. He was so lost in thought that he didn't notice Alexandra taking the seat across from him until she spoke. "You seem contemplative, Mr. Burnett. Just thinking about the future," he admitted. "It looks different than it did a week ago." She nodded, understanding without needing elaboration. "Life can change quickly, for better or worse." "Ms. Remington," Marcus began, gathering his courage, "may I ask you something personal?" Her eyebrow arched slightly, but she nodded. "Your brother, Thomas, is that why you pursued this acquisition so aggressively?" "Because of him." Alexandra was quiet for a moment, considering her response. "Partially," she finally said. "After Thomas died, my father became obsessed with funding CF research. It was his way of channeling grief into purpose. When I took over Remington 15 years ago, I continued that tradition. The CFX7 trial is the most promising development I've seen in decades, but there's more to it," Marcus observed. A hint of a smile touched her lips. "You're perceptive, Mr. Burnett. Yes, there's more. Tempest Pharmaceuticals was developing a competing therapy, less effective but easier to produce. If they had acquired Meridian, they would have shelved CFX7 to eliminate competition for their own product. They would have let it die, even knowing it could help people. Business can be ruthless," Alexandra stated matter-of-factly. "But it doesn't have to be soulless. That's the distinction my father taught me." The conversation shifted to the logistics of their return. They would arrive in New York by late afternoon, and Alexandra had a dinner engagement that evening. Marcus would have the following day off to spend with Lily before resuming his regular duties. As the plane began its descent into New York, Marcus felt the enormity of the change in his circumstances. Just over a week ago, he had been scrubbing toilets and worrying about how to afford Lily's medication. Now he was returning from a business trip on a private jet, with his daughter potentially enrolled in a groundbreaking clinical trial, all because he had found a wallet and made the only choice that had felt right. The transition back to normal life was jarring. One moment Marcus was in the rarefied world of corporate jets and high-stakes negotiations. The next, he was unlocking the door to his modest apartment, where Lily launched herself into his arms with a squeal of delight. "Daddy, you're home!" She clung to him like a koala bear. "Did you bring me anything from Chicago?" Marcus laughed, setting down his bag to properly embrace her. "As a matter of fact, I did." He pulled out a snow globe featuring the Chicago skyline, which Lily immediately shook to create a blizzard over the miniature city. "It's perfect. I'm going to put it next to my bed." She dashed off to her room while Mrs. Patterson emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Welcome back," she said warmly. "How was your trip?" "Life-changing," Marcus replied honestly. In more ways than I can explain right now," Mrs. Patterson nodded sagely. "Well, whatever happened there has put a light back in your eyes I haven't seen in years. And that's good enough for me. After Mrs. Patterson left, Marcus and Lily had a quiet dinner together. He showed her the photos he'd taken of the private jet and the Chicago skyline from his hotel room. She listened, wide-eyed, as he described the city's tall buildings and the enormous lake that looked like an ocean. "Can I go with you next time?" she asked hopefully. "Maybe someday," he promised. "But first, let's focus on getting you stronger with this new medicine." Later, as he tucked her into bed, Lily grew serious. "Daddy, is Ms. Remington nice?" "You never said." The question caught Marcus off guard. How to describe Alexandra Remington to a 7-year-old? "She's complicated," he answered carefully. "But yes, in her own way, I think she is nice. She's helping a lot of children like you get medicine they need." Lily considered this with the solemn wisdom of childhood. Then she must be nice inside, where it counts. "I think you're right," Marcus agreed, kissing her forehead. "Now get some sleep. Tomorrow is all about you and me." "What should we do?" "Zoo," Lily declared without hesitation. "I want to see the new baby penguin." "Zoo it is," Marcus agreed, turning on her nightlight. "Sweet dream, sweet pea. Love you, Daddy. Love you more." As the door closed behind him, Marcus leaned against the wall, overwhelmed with gratitude. He had almost forgotten what hope felt like. The next day was everything Marcus had promised. A full father-daughter day at the zoo, followed by ice cream and a movie at home. Lily's energy seemed better than it had been in months, whether from the new medication she'd started or simple happiness at having her father home. Marcus couldn't be sure. When Monday morning arrived, he donned one of his new suits and prepared to return to work. The custom suits from Sullivan's had been delivered as promised, transforming his appearance so dramatically that Lily had giggled when he modeled them for her. "You look like a movie star, Daddy." Now, as he drove to Remington Tower in the company car that had been assigned to him for commuting, Marcus felt a strange new confidence. He belonged in this world now. At least a little bit, not just as an observer, but as a participant. Alexandra's schedule that week was packed with meetings related to the Meridian acquisition. Marcus drove her between appointments across the city, gradually becoming familiar with her patterns and preferences. She liked to use the car time to review documents or make calls, rarely engaging in small talk, but occasionally she would ask about Lily, showing a genuine interest in her well-being. On Thursday afternoon, as he drove her back to the tower after a meeting with the integration team, Alexandra looked up from her tablet. "Dr. Mills called this morning. The expanded trial sites will open next month. Lily has been accepted as a participant at the New York location." Marcus nearly swerved in surprise. That's incredible news. "Thank you for telling me. You should receive official notification within the week. The protocol requires 3 visits per month initially. Will that be manageable with your schedule?" "I'll make it work," Marcus assured her, still processing the news. "No need," Alexandra replied matter-of-factly. "Your contract includes provisions for family medical leave. On treatment days, you'll have the morning off. We'll adjust the schedule accordingly." Marcus was momentarily speechless at this unexpected accommodation. "I don't know what to say." "There's nothing to say," Alexandra stated simply. "It's a practical solution that benefits everyone. Remington gets a more focused employee and Lily gets the treatment she needs." But they both knew it was more than that. It was a kindness disguised as business efficiency. The following week brought another surprise. When Marcus arrived at work on Monday, Evelyn informed him that Alexandra wanted to see him in her office immediately. Concerned that he had somehow erred, he made his way to the 50th floor with apprehension. Alexandra was standing by the windows as usual, the city spread out before her like a kingdom. She turned as he entered, her expression unreadable. "Mr. Burnett, I've been reviewing our staffing structure in light of the Meridian acquisition." Marcus's heart sank. Was he being reassigned, or worse? "The integration will require frequent travel between New York and Chicago over the next 6 months. She continued. "I'll need someone who can accompany me on these trips, someone already familiar with both the business aspects and the key players involved." "I understand," Marcus said carefully. "Will you be hiring a new driver for those trips?" "No," Alexandra replied. "I'm creating a new position, executive liaison for special projects. The role would report directly to me, focusing initially on the Meridian integration, particularly the CFX-7 development program. Marcus blinked, unconfused. "I'm not sure I understand how this affects my position." "I'm offering you the job, Mr. Burnett," Alexandra clarified. "Your background as a mechanic gives you a solid technical foundation. You've demonstrated excellent judgment and discretion, and most importantly, you have a personal stake in seeing CFX-7 succeed." "Me?" Marcus was stunned. "But I don't have a business background or a college degree. You have something more valuable: integrity and practical intelligence. The rest can be learned." She handed him a folder. "The position comes with a significant salary increase and more predictable hours. You'd still travel, but on a set schedule, you could plan around Lily's needs." Marcus opened the folder and nearly gasped at the salary figure. $120,000 annually, plus bonuses. It was life-changing money. "Why me?" he asked, still struggling to comprehend the offer. Alexandra's expression softened slightly. "When I was 14, watching my brother struggle to breathe, I promised myself that if I ever had the power to help children like him, I would use it. This acquisition is part of that promise. Having someone on the team who truly understands the stakes will help ensure we stay focused on what matters." She paused, then added, "Besides, you've proven yourself extraordinarily capable. That wallet you returned contained more than money, Mr. Burnett. It held sensitive documents related to the Meridian negotiations, preliminary terms that would have been very valuable to our competitors. You never even looked at them, did you?" "No," he confirmed. "It wasn't mine to look at." "Precisely. That kind of integrity is rare and valuable. So, will you accept the position?" Marcus thought of Lily, of the stability this would provide her, of the difference he could potentially make for other children like her. "Yes," he said firmly. "I'd be honored." "Excellent," Alexandra nodded, businesslike again. "Evelyn will handle the paperwork. You'll start next Monday. That gives you a week to prepare. I suggest you use some of that time to purchase appropriate business attire. Your driver suits won't be suitable for executive meeting." "Of course," Marcus agreed, still somewhat dazed by this turn of events. "And Mr. Burnett," Alexandra added, as he turned to leave, "congratulations. This promotion was earned, not given." As Marcus left her office, he felt as though he was walking in a dream. In less than 2 weeks, his life had transformed completely. From janitor to driver to executive, it seemed impossible. Yet here he was, holding a folder that contained a future he could never have imagined for himself and Lily. That evening, as he pushed Lily on the swings at the neighborhood park, he tried to explain his new job in terms she could understand. "So you won't be driving Miss Remington's car anymore?" Lily asked, pumping her legs to go higher. "Sometimes I still might," Marcus explained. "Good, but mostly I'll be helping make sure that the new medicine you're going to try gets to other kids who need it too." Lily considered this as she swung back and forth. "That's way more important than driving a car," she decided. "You'll be helping kids breathe better." Marcus smiled at her simple wisdom. "That's right, sweet pea. That's exactly what I'll be doing." "I'm proud of you, Daddy," she said, with the pure sincerity only a child could offer. Those 5 words, spoken on a playground swing as the sun set over their changing lives, meant more to Marcus than all the promotions and salary increases in the world. In that moment, he knew with absolute certainty that returning that wallet had been more than just the right thing to do. It had been the key that unlocked a door he never knew existed. As Lily soared higher on the swing, her laughter ringing out in the evening air, Marcus silently thanked whatever twist of fate had placed Alexandra Remington's wallet in his path, that ordinary morning that now seemed like a lifetime ago. 6 months passed in a blur of activity. Marcus adapted to his new role with a determination that impressed even his most skeptical colleague. The learning curve had been steep: financial reports, regulatory protocols, corporate politics, but he approached each challenge with the same methodical focus he had once applied to fixing engines and cleaning executive bathrooms. His office, a modest but respectable space on the 48th floor, offered a view of the city that still occasionally took his breath away. On his desk sat 3 framed photos: Lily at the zoo with the baby penguin she had been so excited to see, Lily with Dr. Mills at the clinical trial center, both giving thumbs up to the camera, and a more recent one of Lily riding a bike in the park. something she couldn't have managed 6 months earlier. The CFX7 trial was showing remarkable results. Lily's lung function had improved by 47% since beginning treatment, slightly below the trial average of 52%, but still transformative. Her energy levels were higher, her breathing easier, and the persistent cough that had punctuated her every sentence was noticeably reduced. For the first time in years, Marcus allowed himself to imagine a future where Lily's condition was managed rather than merely endured. The Meridian integration had proceeded more smoothly than anyone anticipated, largely due to Marcus's unexpected skill at bridging the cultural gap between the two companies. His unique position, neither scientist nor seasoned executive, allowed him to translate between worlds, helping researchers communicate their needs to the business team and vice versa. Today marked a significant milestone. The CFX7 trial had completed its expanded Phase 3 enrollment, with over 300 patients now receiving the treatment across 15 sites. The preliminary data was strong enough that the FDA had granted breakthrough therapy designation, potentially accelerating the approval timeline. Marcus straightened his tie, a habit he still wasn't entirely comfortable with, as he prepared for the quarterly review meeting. He gathered his materials and headed for the main conference room, where Alexandra and the integration team would be assembling. As he walked through the executive floor, he noted how different it felt from that first day when he had returned Alexandra's wallet. Then he had been an outsider, intimidated by the sleek surroundings and cool efficiency. Now, while not entirely at home in this world of power and privilege, he moved through it with earned confidence. The conference room was already filling when he arrived. Alexandra sat at the head of the table, reviewing documents with her characteristic intensity. Dr. Mills, who now split his time between Chicago and New York, was engaged in conversation with Sarah Chen, while James Harrington examined financial projections on his tablet. "And Marcus," Dr. Mills called out warmly, "just the man we need. Come settle a debate for us." Over the months, Marcus and Howard Mills had developed a genuine friendship, bonded by their shared commitment to the children in the trial. Howard had become a regular visitor to Marcus's apartment, bringing updates on the trial that went beyond the official reports, and sometimes staying for dinner with Marcus and Lily. What's the debate?" Marcus asked, taking his seat. "I believe we should begin preparation for worldwide distribution immediately," Howard explained. "The data supports it. James thinks we should wait for final FDA approval." "And what does the FDA think?" Marcus asked, turning to the Regulatory Affairs Director, who had joined them from Meridian. "They're impressed with the results," the woman acknowledged, "but they've requested additional data on long-term effects, particularly in the pediatric population." "Then we do both," Marcus suggested. "Begin preliminary distribution planning while gathering the additional data. If we wait for absolute certainty, patients lose valuable time." Alexandra nodded slightly, her expression approving. "A reasonable compromise. Let's proceed with that approach." The meeting continued for 2 hours, covering everything from manufacturing capacity to marketing strategy. Throughout, Marcus noticed Alexandra watching him with an evaluative gaze, as if measuring his growth in the role she had created for him. When the meeting concluded, she asked him to remain behind as the others filed out. Once they were alone, she closed her portfolio and fixed him with a direct look. "And the board is pleased with the integration progress," she began. "The timeline is ahead of schedule, and the preliminary financial results are exceeding projections." "That's good news," Marcus replied, wondering why she was sharing this privately. "Indeed, but more importantly, the CFX7 program is advancing faster than anyone anticipated. Howard credits much of that success to your involvement." Marcus shook his head modestly. "And I just helped facilitate communication. The scientists are doing the real work. Don't underestimate your contribution," Alexandra countered. "Your perspective as a parent has kept everyone focused on what matters most. That's no small thing in a corporate environment." She paused, studying him with that unreadable expression he had come to know so well. "How is Lily doing?" Beyond the clinical metric, the personal question still caught him off guard, though Alexandra had asked it with increasing frequency over the months. "She's thriving," he answered honestly. Last week, she ran a full lap around the track at school without stopping. 6 months ago, she couldn't make it halfway without her oxygen levels dropping. Alexandra nodded, a rare smile softening her features. That's what this is all about, in the end. Yes, Marcus agreed. It is. I have a proposal for you, she continued, her tone shifting back to business. The success of the Meridian integration suggests a model we might replicate. Remington is considering several additional acquisitions in the biotech space, focusing on treatments for rare pediatric conditions. Marcus waited, sensing there was more. I'd like you to lead a new division, Alexandra stated. Patient advocacy and clinical integration. You would oversee the transition of acquired research programs with a particular focus on maintaining the patient-centered approach that has made CFX7 so successful. Marcus blinked in surprise. That's a significant expansion of my current role. It is, she acknowledged, and it would come with commensurate compensation and resources. You would build your own team, report directly to me, and have a seat at the executive committee. The offer was staggering. In less than a year, he had gone from janitor to a potential executive position with real influence. Why me? He asked, echoing the question he had posed 6 months earlier. Because you never forget what matters, Alexandra replied simply. And in boardrooms and budget meetings, it's easy to lose sight of the human impact of our decisions. You keep us anchored to our purpose. She stood, signaling the conversation was nearing its end. Think about it. We can discuss details next week. I will, Marcus promised, gathering his materials. As he reached the door, Alexandra added, one more thing. The annual Remington Foundation Gala is this Saturday. I'd like you and Lily to attend as my guests. Marcus hesitated. Lily's never been to a formal event before. She'll be fine, Alexandra assured him. Besides, many of the foundation's donors would benefit from meeting one of the children their contributions are helping. The implication was clear. Lily would be not just a guest, but a living testament to the foundation's impact. The protective father in Marcus wanted to refuse, to shield his daughter from being placed on display, but he also recognized the potential good that could come from putting a face to the cause. I'll ask her if she'd like to go, he compromised. Fair enough, Alexandra agreed. Let me know her decision. That evening, as Marcus and Lily shared dinner in their new apartment, a spacious 3-bedroom in a building with an elevator, essential for days when Lily's energy was low, he broached the subject of the gala. A fancy party, Lily repeated, her eyes widening, with dresses and dancing and stuff. That's right, Marcus confirmed. There would be a lot of important people there, and Ms. Remington thought they might like to meet you. Lily considered this seriously, twirling spaghetti around her fork. Would I have to talk about being sick? The question pierced Marcus's heart. No, sweet pea. You wouldn't have to talk about anything you don't want to. Would you be with me the whole time? Every minute, he promised. Lily nodded decisively. Then I want to go, but I need a fancy dress. And maybe shoes that sparkle, Marcus laughed, relieved by her enthusiasm. I think we can manage that. Saturday evening arrived with a flurry of excitement. Lily twirled in her new dress, a modest but elegant blue gown that matched her eyes, while Marcus adjusted his bow tie, a refinement he was still getting used to. You look beautiful, sweet pea, he told her truthfully. Guy, you look handsome, she replied, reaching up to straighten his already straight tie, like a prince in a fairy tale. A car sent by Alexandra arrived precisely on time. As they rode to the gala venue, an historic museum whose grand hall had been transformed for the evening, Lily peppered Marcus with questions about who they would meet and what they would do. Ms. Remington will be there, Marcus explained, and Dr. Mills. Remember him from the hospital, and lots of other people who help fund the medicine that's making you feel better. Should I say thank you to them? Lily asked, her sense of propriety charming in its earnestness. That would be very nice, Marcus agreed. But you don't have to say anything if you don't want to. The museum was ablaze with lights when they arrived, a red carpet leading to the entrance, where photographers captured the arrival of guests. Marcus felt a moment of panic at the media present, but a staff member quickly guided them through a side entrance, away from the cameras. Inside, the grand hall had been transformed into an elegant wonderland that drew a gasp of delight from Lily. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over tables adorned with elaborate floral arrangements. A string quartet played softly in one corner, while waiters circulated with trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Alexandra spotted them immediately, making her way across the room with purpose. She wore a stunning black gown, her usual corporate armor replaced by elegant simplicity. "Mr. Burnett," she greeted him, then bending slightly to meet Lily's eyes. "And you must be Lily. I've heard so much about you." Lily, suddenly shy, pressed against Marcus's side. "Hello," she managed. "Thank you for inviting us," Marcus said, giving Lily's shoulder a reassuring squeeze. "I'm glad you could come," Alexandra replied. Her gaze lingered on Lily, an unusual softness in her expression. "Your father tells me you're doing very well with your new medicine," Lily nodded, finding her voice. "I can run now, and I don't have to use my oxygen machine at night anymore." "That's wonderful news," Alexandra said with genuine warmth. "Would you like to meet some of the people who helped make that medicine possible?" Lily looked up at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. "Okay," she agreed. The next hour passed in a whirl of introductions. Alexandra guided them through the crowd with practiced ease, introducing Marcus as the driving force behind our patient integration program and Lily as one of our most promising CFX7 trial participants. To Marcus's amazement, Lily bloomed under the attention, charming everyone they met with her straightforward answers and occasional precocious observations. When asked by a silver-haired board member how the treatment was helping her, she replied simply, "I can laugh without coughing now, and that's pretty great." The simple statement moved the man visibly. Later, Marcus overheard him telling Alexandra he wanted to double his foundation contribution. Dr. Mills found them near the dessert table, where Lily was seriously contemplating the merits of chocolate mousse versus creme brulee. "Gee, why not both?" he suggested with a conspiratorial wink. "That's what I'm going to do," Lily grinned, her earlier shyness completely evaporated. "Daddy, can I have both?" "Special occasion," Marcus agreed, unable to deny her anything on this magical evening. As Lily happily accepted both desserts from the server, Howard pulled Marcus aside. "The latest trial results came in yesterday," he said quietly. "I wanted you to hear it from me first. The improvement is holding steady across all age groups, with no significant adverse effects. The FDA review team is impressed." "What does that mean for the timeline?" Marcus asked. "Accelerated approval is likely. We could have CFX7 on the market within 6 months, a year at most." Howard's face split into a wide grin. "We did it, Marcus. Or rather, you did. None of this would have happened without you." "That's not true," Marcus protested. This was a team effort, starting long before I came along." "Perhaps," Howard conceded, "but you were the catalyst, the right person at the right moment who set everything in motion." He glanced at Lily, now chatting animatedly with a young woman Marcus recognized as a Remington board member's daughter, "and she's the reason we all keep going." Later in the evening, Alexandra took the stage to address the gathered donors and guests. Her speech was characteristically precise and powerful, outlining the Foundation's achievements and future goals. But it was her closing remarks that caught Marcus by surprise. "Many of you know the Remington Foundation was established in memory of my brother, Thomas, who lost his battle with cystic fibrosis 30 years ago," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the hushed room. "What you may not know is that this year marks a turning point in our fight against this disease." She gestured toward where Marcus and Lily stood. "I'd like to introduce you to Lily Burnett, one of the children currently participating in our CFX7 trial. Lily, would you join me for a moment?" Marcus felt Lily's hand tighten in his. "You don't have to," he whispered. "It's okay, Daddy," she whispered back. "Well, I want to." With remarkable poise for a 7-year-old, Lily walked to the stage where Alexandra waited. The CEO gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Lily represents the future we're fighting for," Alexandra continued. "A future where children with cystic fibrosis can run and play and dream without limitation. A future Thomas didn't live to see, but one we are now within reach of creating." She looked down at Lily with a smile. "Would you like to say hello to everyone?" Lily stepped up to the microphone, her voice small but clear. "Thank you for helping make medicine that helps kids like me breathe better. My daddy says you're all heroes, "And I think so too." The room erupted in applause, many guests wiping away tears. As Lily returned to Marcus's side, he hugged her tightly, overcome with pride and emotion. "You were amazing, sweet pea," he whispered. "Was that okay?" she asked, suddenly uncertain. "It was perfect," he assured her. "Absolutely perfect." As the evening wound down, Alexandra found them again. "You have a remarkable daughter, Mr. Burnett," she said. "She made quite an impression tonight." "She makes an impression everywhere she goes," Marcus replied, watching as Lily, now tired but happy, leaned against his side. "I've been thinking about your new position," Alexandra said, changing subjects abruptly. "I believe we should make it official next week. Unless you have reservations?" Marcus looked down at his daughter, then back at the woman who had, through a series of unexpected events, changed their lives completely. "No reservations?" he confirmed. "I'm ready." "Excellent." Alexandra turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, you know, when you returned my wallet that day, I thought I was evaluating your character. I didn't realize you would end up evaluating mine as well." Before Marcus could respond to this surprising admission, she continued, "I think we've both passed the test, don't you?" With that enigmatic statement, she moved away to bid farewell to departing guests, leaving Marcus to contemplate how thoroughly his life had been transformed by a single moment of simple honesty. As he and a sleepy Lily rode home in the car Alexandra had arranged, Marcus reflected on the strange, winding path that had led him here, from janitor to executive, from desperate father to hopeful one. All because he had found a wallet and done the right thing. "Daddy," Lily murmured, half asleep against his shoulder. "Ms. Remington is nice, not like a regular nice person, but nice inside where it matters." "Yes," Marcus agreed, thinking of the complex, driven woman who had recognized something in him worth nurturing. "I think you're right about that, sweet pea." "I think you're absolutely right." 1 year to the day after Marcus had found Alexandra Remington's wallet, he stood in the lobby of Remington Tower, watching the morning bustle with a sense of wonder that still hadn't quite faded. Executives hurried past, coffees in hand, while security guards nodded respectfully as he waited for the express elevator that would take him to the executive floor. The past 6 months had been a whirlwind of activity. His new division, patient advocacy and clinical integration, had grown from a concept to a team of 15 dedicated professionals, all focused on ensuring that treatments acquired by Remington Industries made their way to the patients who needed them most, with accessibility as a core principle. The CFX-7 drug, now officially named Respira, had received FDA approval 3 months ahead of even the most optimistic projections. Howard Mills had led the final push, presenting data so compelling that the review board had fast-tracked the process. The first commercial batches were already being distributed to patients, with Lily among the first to transition from the trial to the approved medication. As promised, Alexandra had implemented a comprehensive patient assistance program. No child who needed Respira would be denied access due to financial constraints. The program had already been praised as a model for the industry, proving that profitability and accessibility weren't mutually exclusive. Today marked another milestone. The Remington board was meeting to approve the acquisition of a small biotech firm that had developed a promising treatment for juvenile arthritis, a nod to Dr. Mills's daughter, though few knew that connection. Marcus would be presenting the integration plan, his first major proposal to the full board. As he rode the elevator to the 50th floor, Marcus reflected on how profoundly his life had changed. He and Lily had moved to a comfortable 3-bedroom apartment in a good school district. Lily's health had stabilized to the point where her condition was now considered well managed rather than life-threatening. She attended school regularly, participated in a swimming program designed for children with respiratory conditions, and had recently joined the school choir, an achievement that would have been unthinkable a year ago. The elevator doors opened, and Marcus stepped out, nodding to Evelyn, who had become a friend and ally in navigating the corporate landscape. "They're waiting for you in the main boardroom," she informed him. "And Marcus, good luck." "Thanks, Evelyn," he replied, straightening his tie, a gesture that had become habitual over the past year. The boardroom fell silent as he entered. 12 pairs of eyes turned toward him, including Alexandra's. She gave him a slight nod. Encouragement from her was always subtle but unmistakable. "Mr. Burnett," she greeted him formally, "and we're ready for your presentation on the Novara Therapeutics acquisition and integration plan." For the next 30 minutes, Marcus outlined the strategy his team had developed. He discussed the scientific merit of Novara's arthritis treatment, the regulatory pathway to approval, and most importantly, the implementation of a patient-centered approach that had proven so successful with Respiré. "The key difference between a successful acquisition and a transformative one," he concluded, "is maintaining focus on the end users, the patients whose lives we aim to improve. Novara's treatment has the potential to help over 50,000 children in the United States alone. Our integration plan ensures that potential is realized quickly, efficiently, and accessibly." When he finished, there was a moment of silence before the questions began. Marcus answered each one with the quiet confidence he had developed over the past year, no longer intimidated by the wealth and power concentrated in the room. These were just people, after all, smart, driven people, but people nonetheless. After the last question, Alexandra took control of the meeting again. "Thank you, Mr. Burnett. The board will now vote on the acquisition proposal." Marcus gathered his materials, preparing to leave as was customary during votes. "Actually," Alexandra said, "I'd like Mr. Burnett to remain for this discussion. His perspective would be valuable." This was unprecedented, but no one objected. Marcus resumed his seat, curious about this break in protocol. Before we vote," Alexandra continued, "I want to highlight something unique about this acquisition. Unlike Meridian, which was primarily a business decision with humanitarian benefits, Novara represents something different. It's the first acquisition identified and pursued by our patient advocacy division, based on treatment potential rather than market position." She looked around the table. "And it's a new model for our industry, leading with patient impact and allowing profit to follow naturally. The early results from our Respira rollout suggest this approach not only benefits patients, but also strengthens our market position and public perception." James Harrington, who had initially been skeptical of Marcus's division, spoke up. "The numbers support this assessment. Respira is on track to exceed revenue projections by 22% in its first year, despite the patient assistance program. Our corporate reputation metrics are at an all-time high." The vote was unanimous in favor of the acquisition. As the board members filed out, several stopped to congratulate Marcus on his presentation. Alexandra remained seated, reviewing notes, until they were alone. "That went well," she said simply. "And thank you for allowing me to stay for the vote," Marcus replied, "and for your support." Alexandra closed her portfolio and fixed him with that penetrating gaze he had come to know so well. "1 year ago today, you returned my wallet." So she had remembered too. "Yes?" he acknowledged. "Did you ever imagine where that single action would lead?" she asked. "Not in my wildest dreams," Marcus admitted. "Sometimes I still expect to wake up and find myself back in the maintenance locker room, getting ready to clean the executive bathroom." A hint of a smile touched her lips. "Life rarely follows a predictable path, does it? My father used to say that character reveals itself in the moments when no one is watching. When you found that wallet, you thought no one was watching. But someone always is. Mr. Burnett, even if it's just ourselves." She stood, gathering her materials. "I have a meeting with the PR team about the Novara announcement, but before I go, there's something I'd like to discuss with you." "Of course," Marcus said, curious. "Howard Mills is officially accepting the position of research director for all respiratory program. He'll be relocating permanently to New York next month." "That's excellent news," Marcus replied. Howard had become not just a colleague but a friend, and his presence in New York would be good for the program, and for Lily, who adored her, Dr. Howard, indeed. But it creates an opportunity in Chicago. We need someone to oversee the Meridian integration as it enters its final phase, particularly the expansion of the patient assistance model to their other treatment lines. Marcus waited, sensing where this was leading. "I'd like you to consider taking that role," Alexandra continued. "It would mean relocating to Chicago for approximately 6 months. Your team here is well established now and could continue under Sarah Chen's supervision during your absence." The prospect was both exciting and daunting. 6 months in Chicago, a significant responsibility and opportunity, but also 6 months away from their life in New York, which had just begun to feel settled. "Wait, what about Lily?" he asked, the question automatic. "Naturally, she would accompany you," Alexandra replied. "There's an excellent school near the Meridian campus with a strong support program for children with medical needs. And of course, she would continue receiving Respira without interruption." Marcus considered the offer. "May I have some time to think about it and to discuss it with Lily?" "Of course. I'll need your decision by next week." Alexandra moved toward the door, then paused. "One more thing. The position would come with a title change: Executive Vice President of Integration and Patient Advocacy." The implication wasn't lost on Marcus. It was another significant promotion, placing him firmly in the upper echelons of Remington Industries leadership. From janitor to Executive Vice President in just over a year, it seemed impossible. "I'll think about it," he promised. That evening, Marcus picked Lily up from her swimming lesson, her cheeks flushed with healthy exertion, her breathing steady and strong. They walked home through the park, stopping for ice cream at their favorite shop. "I have something to ask you, sweet pea," Marcus said as they sat on a bench, enjoying their treats. "Is it about moving to Chicago?" Lily asked, surprising him completely. How did you know about that?" She rolled her eyes in the way only a precocious 8-year-old could. "Dr. Howard told me he's moving here and someone has to go there. I figured it might be us." Marcus sometimes forgot how perceptive his daughter was. "Would you be okay with that? It would only be for 6 months." Lily considered the question with adorable seriousness, her brow furrowed in concentration. Would I still go to school?" "Yes, a very good one." "Would I still have my medicine?" "Absolutely." "Would you be happier? Would it be good for your job?" The question caught him off guard. "Why do you ask that?" "Because you're always thinking about what makes me happy," she said simply. "But I want you to be happy too, Daddy." Marcus felt his throat tighten with emotion. "I'm happy wherever you are, sweet pea." "I know," she said with childlike confidence, "but you really like your new job. You help a lot of kids. If going to Chicago helps you do that more, then we should go." In that moment, looking at his daughter's earnest face, Marcus marveled at how wise children could sometimes be. In her simple logic, there was a profound understanding of what really mattered. "Then we'll go," he decided. "An adventure for 6 months, and then we'll come back home." "Can we visit the big lake?" Lily asked, already excited. "You said it looks like an ocean." "Definitely. And the tall buildings, and the museums, and anything else you want to see." As they walked the rest of the way home, Lily chattering excitedly about their upcoming adventure, Marcus reflected on the strange, winding path that had led them here. A janitor finding a wallet, a CEO recognizing something valuable in an ordinary act of honesty, a little girl getting the medicine she needed. All these threads woven together into a tapestry none of them could have imagined a year ago. The next morning, Marcus arrived at work early. He took the elevator not to the executive floors, but down to the basement level, where the maintenance staff began their day. Johnson, his former supervisor, looked up in surprise when Marcus walked into the break room. "Well, look who's slumming it with us common folk," Johnson said, but his tone was good-natured. "What brings an executive down to the dungeon?" "Just wanted to say hello," Marcus replied, accepting the cup of coffee Johnson offered him. "And to thank you." "Thank me? For what?" "For being tough but fair. For teaching me the importance of doing things right, even when no one's watching." Johnson looked embarrassed but pleased. "Just doing my job, same as you were." He gestured to Marcus's suit. "Though your job's changed a bit since then. The clothes have." Marcus agreed. "But the principals haven't." They chatted for a few minutes about the maintenance crew, the building, mutual acquaintances. As Marcus prepared to leave, Johnson called after him, "Hey, Burnett, we're all proud of you down here, you know. You're one of us who made good." The simple acknowledgement meant more to Marcus than any corporate accolade. "I'm still one of you, Johnson, just wearing different clothes." When he reached the executive floor, he went directly to Alexandra's office. She looked up from her desk, raising an eyebrow in silent question. "I'll take the Chicago position," Marcus informed her. "Lily and I discussed it last night. We're ready for the new challenge." Alexandra nodded, as if she had expected nothing less. "Excellent. Evelyn will handle the logistic. You'll want to enroll Lily in school before the fall semester begins. There's one condition," Marcus added, surprising himself with his boldness. "Oh," Alexandra's expression was unreadable. "I want to establish a scholarship program for the children of Remington employees. Not just executives, but maintenance staff, security guards, cafeteria workers, for college or vocational training." Alexandra studied him for a moment. "That's an admirable idea. What prompted it?" "I was lucky," Marcus said simply. "Not everyone gets the chances I've had, but they deserve them." "Draw up a proposal," Alexandra instructed. "We'll present it to the foundation board next month." As Marcus turned to leave, Alexandra added, "Mr. Burnett, your journey here has been unconventional, to say the least, but I've never once regretted my decision that day." "Neither have I," Marcus replied honestly. Later that day, as he looked out the window of his office at the city spread below, Marcus thought about the maintenance worker he had been a year ago. The desperate father, scrubbing toilets and picking up wallet after wallet, hoping to make enough to keep his daughter breathing for another day. That man could never have imagined standing here, about to become an executive vice president, with his daughter thriving on a medication he had helped bring to market, all because of a simple choice to do the right thing, even when no one was watching, except someone had been watching. And that had made all the difference. His phone buzzed with a text from Lily's school. She had been selected to sing a solo in the upcoming choir concert. Another small miracle in a year full of them. Marcus smiled, thinking of how far they had come and the journey still ahead. Chicago would be a new adventure, but the principles that had guided him from the maintenance floor to the executive suite would remain the same. Integrity, hard work, and never forgetting what truly mattered. A janitor had found a wallet with $10,000, and a CEO's reaction had indeed left an entire building speechless. But the real story wasn't about money found or status gained. It was about two people from different worlds recognizing something in each other worth believing in, and a little girl